When someone asked why they visited disgrace upon those among them who lost their shields, but did not do the same thing to those who lost their helmets or their breastplates, the Spartan king Demaratus is said to have replied, because the latter they put on for their own protection, but the shield for the common good of the whole line. Feel no fear before the multitude of men. Do not run in panic. But let each man bear his shield straight towards the four fighters, regarding his own life as hateful, and holding the dark spirits of death as dear as the radiance of the sun. Xerxes wrote to him, "It is possible for you not by fighting against God but by ranging yourself to my side, to be the sole ruler of Greece." But he wrote in reply, "If you had any knowledge of the noble things in life, you would refrain from coveting others' possessions. But for me to die for Greece is better than to be the sole ruler over the people of my race." When Xerxes wrote again, "Hand over your arms," he wrote in reply, "Come and take them." Herodotus reports that just before the Battle of Thermopylae, a Spartan warrior named Dieneces was told that the Persian archers could blank out the sun with their arrows. He replied, "Good. Then we shall have our battle in the shade." It was natural for Spartan women to think and speak as Gorgo, the wife of Leonidas, is said to have done. When some foreign lady, as it would seem, told her that the women of Lacedaemon were the only women of the world who could rule men. "With good reason," she said, "for we are the only women who bring forth men." An old man wandering around the Olympic Games looking for a seat was jeered at by the crowd until he reached the seat of the Spartans, whereupon every Spartan younger than him, and some that were older, stood up and offered him their seat. The crowd applauded, and the old man turned to them with a sigh, saying, "All Greeks know what is right, but only the Spartans do it." Rise up, warriors. Take your stand at one another's sides. Our feet set wide and rooted like oaks in the ground. Learn to love death's inky black shadow as much as you love the light of dawn. Here is courage, mankind's finest possession. Here is the noblest prize that a young man can endeavor to win. The walls of Sparta were its young men, and its borders the points of their spears. In answer to the man who sought to know why the Spartans used short daggers in war, Antalcidas said, "Because we fight close to the enemy." For the Spartans, it wasn't walls or magnificent public buildings that made a city. It was their own ideas. In essence, Sparta was a city of the head and the heart, and it existed in its purest form in the disciplined march of the hoplite phalanx on their way to war. In Sparta, mothers were said to say to their sons, "As a warrior of Sparta, come back with your shield, or on it." Asked what was the greatest benefit Lycurgus conferred on his countrymen, King Agesilaus replied, "Contempt of pleasure." In answer to some of the citizens who desired to know, "How can we keep off invasion by armies?" he said, "If you remain poor, and no one of you desires to be more important than the other." Alexander, the son of Eurycrates, when someone inquired why the Spartans did not amass money in the public treasury, so that those made guardians of it may not become corrupt. As he permitted citizens to only engage in that kind of athletic contest in which the arm is not held up, someone inquired what was the reason. He replied, "So that no one of the citizens shall get the habit of crying quits in the midst of hard struggle." In answer to a man who raised the question how anyone could possibly rule in safety without the protection of a bodyguard, Agesilaus said, "If one rules his subjects as fathers rule their sons." When his brother said to Teleclus that the citizens did not comport themselves towards himself as they did towards the king, although they were of the same family, but with much less consideration, he said, "The reason is, you do not know how to submit to injustice, and I do." When one of the elderly men said to Agis in his old age, inasmuch as he saw the good old customs falling into desuetude and other mischievous practices creeping in, that for this reason everything was getting to be topsy-turvy in Sparta, Agis said humorously, "Things are then but following a logical course if that is what is happening. For when I was a boy, I used to hear from my father that everything was topsy-turvy among them, and my father said that when he was a boy, his father had said this to him, so nobody ought to be surprised if conditions later are worse than those earlier, but rather wonder if they grow better, or remain approximately the same."